Namaskar everyone and welcome to the Geeta Satsang for today. So let us get started. Let us do the prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Geeta Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatakleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha. Ramanujadayapatram Jnanavairagyabhushanam Srimad-Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedantadeshikam Yo Nityamachyutapadambujayugmarugma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinayamene Asmadgurorbhagavatosya Dayaikasindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us get started with our shloka for today. Just 1 second, please. So we've been covering the shlokas in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So today we will take up the 25th shloka. So in the last satsang, we saw shloka number 22 and then we saw 23 and 24 together. And in that we saw how different things cannot affect the Atma. So now in the 25th shloka, Lord Krishna continues and he explains further about the Atma to Arjuna. So here the shloka says, Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi. The soul is spoken of as invisible, inconceivable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So Krishna is explaining to Arjuna here that what is the nature of the soul? The soul cannot be seen by our eyes. So it is invisible. It cannot be thought of. Our mind is too small to conceive the idea of the soul. It is inconceivable and it is unchangeable. It will never undergo any kind of a change. And knowing all these things, one should not grieve. Knowing that these are the qualities of the soul of the Atma, one should not grieve for the body because the Atma has all these superior qualities. So what can we understand? What is the point that is being told to us here? So firstly, they say the Atma is avyaktam. Avyaktam means it is invisible. So invisible means it cannot be seen by the eyes. Now, we know very well that whatever is there, this body, this sharira, is visible. It can be seen by our eyes. But the Atma is avyaktam. It cannot be seen because it is something which is beyond our material senses. So, if there is something which our material senses can perceive, it will be visible to us. But the Atma is of something which is outside this world. It is something beyond this material world. So using material objects, it is not going to be possible for us to measure the Atma or with our eyes to see the Atma. So overall, the idea is that this Atma is invisible. So if it is invisible, how then can we study it? Now, why then are we learning so much about this Atma? How we are going to know about the Atma? For any knowledge to be gained, we need to have certain modes through which we are going to get that knowledge, isn't it? So whenever we find that there is some new thing that we need to learn about, then we take some measures, we use some tools, or we have certain methods by which we will try to study that thing. So in Shastra, this tool or the authority or the means which is used to gain knowledge or to grant knowledge to somebody, that is called as a pramana. So when we say pramana, there are three basic types of pramana. So what are the three means by which somebody can gain knowledge? So the three types of pramana are called as pratyaksham, anumanam, and shabdam. So these are the main three modes through which anybody gains any kind of knowledge. Now, to understand a little more about these three types, pratyaksham means, pratyaksha pramana means that something which can be perceived, something which we can see with our eyes, or we can experience through our senses. That is called as pratyaksha pramana. So I can see, like now, for example, I see that this laptop is in front of me, or I can hear that there is a dog which is barking near my house, or I can smell the smell of the agarbatti that I have lighted. Like this, using my senses of perception, I gain knowledge about something. So that is called as pratyaksha pramana. The second type of pramana, which is told in Shastra, is anumana. So in anumana, the idea is that there is nothing which is directly visible, but something is visible, and from that something which you are able to see, you can infer. So it is an inference method. So because this is there, it means that something else should also be there, right? Like for example, the common example which is given for anumana pramana is that if there is smoke, I'm traveling somewhere and then I see far away in the distance, I see smoke. Now, the presence of that smoke, what does it indicate to me? If smoke is there, that means fire is also there somewhere, right? Now, I'm not able to see the fire. What I'm seeing the smoke. But the fact that the smoke is there means I can infer, I can conclude logically that because the smoke is there, that means the fire also must be there. So this is called as anumana pramana. Now, all things in this world, whatever is there in this material world, we can gain knowledge about those items through either the pratyaksha pramana or through anumana pramana. But if there is something which is beyond this material world, then the only pramana that we have to help us understand that is called as shabdam, shabda pramana. So what is this shabda? It is the Vedas. So whatever we cannot understand by using our five senses, by using our ability to experiment in this world, we can understand all that through shabda pramana. Now the Vedas, they tell us what is the nature of the Atma, what is the nature of the Paramatma. All this we cannot understand because they are beyond the material world. We cannot understand them using Pratyaksha and Anumana. But using Shabda, using the Vedas, we will get knowledge. So although we say that the Atma is avyakta, it is invisible, it cannot be seen by us, and yet we can definitely understand the nature of the Atma by the Shabda Pramana. So the Vedas are the only source of information for us which tell us about the Atma and its nature. Now next, Krishna has said that he said avyakta first, then he said Atma is achintyoyam. It is achintya. That means it is something which cannot be thought about, inconceivable. That is what is the literal meaning. Now, do we mean to say that we cannot think about the Atma? No, it's not like that. Rather, the meaning which is sought to be conveyed here is you cannot think of the Atma as being subject to destruction. So one must not think that the Atma is something which can be destroyed. So that is why the Atma is called as Achintyoyam. And then the third idea, the third identity which is attached to the Atma, it is Avikaram. Vikara means change. Vikara means distortion. So anything which is not having Vikara is called Avikaram. So without any change, without undergoing any kind of a modification. So something which is not subject to any change or to distortion, if it cannot change, it also means that that particular thing cannot be destroyed. All the material objects we know in this world, they are things which undergo change. And because they undergo change, they also are going to undergo destruction at some point of time. So if there is something which is avikara, that means it is not changeable, then also that thing is not going to be ever destroyed. And this is very much what is the nature of the Atma. So the Atma, as Krishna has told in this shloka, it is avyakta, okay? It is invisible, it is achintya, it is inconceivable as capable of destruction, and it is avikara, it is unchangeable. So once a person realizes all this, that this is the nature of the Atma, and it is the body which is having the opposite kind of qualities. The Atma is invisible, the body is visible. The Atma one cannot think of as being subject to destruction. But the body, we are only seeing and experiencing how it undergoes so many modifications, so many changes, how it can get destroyed over time. And then we are also able to see that the Atma is unchangeable, it will never change. But the body undergoes changes over time. So, this three identities of the Atma are explained by Krishna in this shloka. So, now what is it that we can try to learn from this? Now, there's one interesting story which is told um, to convey how somebody can have a understanding of what actually is the nature of the Atma. And when somebody has that deep understanding of how the Atma is unchangeable and it cannot ever undergo destruction, then all of the worries that the person has automatically go away. So, this story is told of there was a great Rishi called Yagnavalkya Rishi, and this Yagnavalkya Rishi and Janaka Maharaja. Now, Janaka Maharaja, as we know, he is the father of Sita Devi, correct? So in the Ramayana, we know of Janaka. Actually, if you see all the kings who ruled over that kingdom of Videha, they were called Janaka. And there were particular king had particular name. Now, this we are talking about that Janaka Maharaja, who was the father of Sita Mata. So, what happened is this Janaka Maharaja is very much renowned as a Raja Rishi. Now, if you've heard somewhere people talk about the different grades of rishis, then in that there is somebody who is called as a Raja Rishi. There will be somebody who is Brahma Rishi, right? And we know the famous story of how Vishwamitra did all that exercise and he was so desperate to be called as Brahma Rishi. Okay. Anyway, this Janaka Maharaja is very much renowned as a Raja Rishi. So, what is the meaning of this word Raja Rishi? It is somebody who is a Raja, who is a king, who is performing all the duties of a king, but also has all the qualities of a Rishi. Somebody who is very much spiritually exalted, very elevated spiritually, despite being a king. Now, why we say this thing about despite being a king? Why is that significant here? Because we know all of us, we are not kings. We are just leading some ordinary life of ours, isn't it? And yet, we have realized out of our experience so far, we know how difficult it is to stay detached when we are doing all our worldly responsibilities, right? We are playing so many roles. We may be mother, we may be wife, we may be daughter, we may be sister, we are somebody's parent, we are somebody's child, we are working somewhere, we have a professional responsibility. So we have different identities and we play all these roles in our life. And our what you say, the amount of power that we have in all these identities, in all these roles, is very limited. And yet we get so attached, isn't it? We feel so much attachment to all the people we are living with. We feel so much attachment to all the objects that we have. Now, if there is somebody who is a king, right? Now that king will be so much more likely to have attachment, isn't it? Because he is the greatest authority in the land. He is the person who has power over everybody else in that kingdom. He is somebody who has the highest level of Aishwarya, prosperity, wealth, everything. He is someone who commands a lot of respect from everyone. So it is natural that such a person who is a Raja will generally be attached, and out of that attachment he is more likely to also have the qualities which are like the which we call as the shadripu, the six foes of the human soul, that is kama, krodha, lobha, moha, madha, matsarya. So somebody who is a raja, if such a person has given up attachment and he is totally detached despite being in that position and performing all his duties as a raja, then such a person is called as a raja rishi. Now, this Janaka Maharaja is known as a Raja Rishi. In fact, even in the Bhagavad Gita, later in some shlokas, when Lord Krishna explains about what are the qualities that he likes in people, he gives this example of Janaka Maharaja. So, what is this story about? So, this Rishi called Yagnavalkya Rishi, he was the Guru and he had many disciples. Now, Janaka Maharaja was also one of his disciples, and he was a Raja Rishi. He already knew everything, he had all the jnana, and yet he had an unending thirst for knowledge. So, he used to also, whenever time permitted, he would go to the ashram of Yagnavalkya Rishi. Whatever the Guru is teaching, he would sit there like any of the other disciples. He would sit at the feet of the Guru and he would listen to that. Now, many times it would so happen that Yagnavalkya Rishi used to not start talking, or he would not start explaining some particular topic to his Shishyas until Janaka Maharaja came and took his seat. Okay, so now everybody, it was quite obvious to them that the Rishi is giving importance to Janaka Raja. So they all wrongly concluded that the reason why our Guru is giving so much importance to the Raja is because he is Raja. He is a wealthy person, he is a very powerful person, and because of that our Guru wants to keep him in good books, and that is why he is being nice, and so he waits and he is giving so much importance to the Raja. And so naturally they felt jealous of Janaka. Now the Guru knew that this thought of jealousy and this wrong idea that the Guru is giving importance to Janaka, he knew that these thoughts are running in the minds of the disciples, and he wanted to teach them, that what is the basis why this Janaka is really such a great person. So one day what happened is, everybody was sitting, some upadesha was going on, the Guru was explaining something to all the disciples. At that point of time Janaka was also there. Now, when everybody was there, suddenly there was a big commotion, and someone came running to the ashram and said, "Oh, did you hear the news? Why are you sitting here like this? Everybody go, run, and protect your things. There's a big fire which has broken out in this kingdom, and anything and everything is being eaten up by that fire. So, why you are sitting here? Come on, everybody go, take care, protect yourself." And like that person told. So, the minute they heard that, all the disciples ran here and there. Now, who were these disciples of the Guru? They were all people who were actually sannyasis. They had given up everything and they had come to that ashram to stay there and get jnana. So they had no other things in the world, right? But they all got up, they got very panicked and they started running here and there, saying that, oh, we must protect our things. In the meantime, Yagnavalkya was watching. What is Janaka doing? Janaka just continued to sit as if he had not heard that person tell that announcement only. He just sat there and he kept listening. He kept paying attention to what the Guru was telling. After some time, all those disciples, they came running back. And then when they came running back, then the Guru asked them, what happened? Did you manage to save your belongings? What happened? How come you have come back? So then they all said, no, it was a false alarm. It was just that some rumor had spread and people, this fellow came and told us like this. So it was just a rumor that has spread, nothing actually happened. Then the Guru asked them, now all of you are actually sannyasis. All of you have nothing to protect. And yet you got so panicky. You were so worried about losing. At the most, if at all the fire came and took away also, what you would have lost? Maybe you would have lost your kopina, right? That loincloth that you're wearing. You would have lost your danda. You would have lost your maybe paduka. That's the maximum. You don't have any other attachments, any other belongings in this world. And yet, and what would have happened? You may have lost your life. Now, the thought of losing those meager possessions and the thought of losing your life made you panic like this, and you ran here and there. But did you see what Janaka Maharaja did? He is the person who owns the entire kingdom. Everything belongs to him. So actually, he should have been the one who panicked when they say that there is a fire. But he never panicked. He was just calmly sitting here in the same way and listening to me. So then the Guru asks Janaka that why did you not panic? Why didn't you feel affected by that news of the fire in the kingdom? So Janaka said, from whatever your teachings I have learned all these years, I have understood that all these things have no impact, they have no value for the Atma. The Atma is eternal. The Atma cannot be burnt by that fire. There is nothing that the Atma owns as its own. So, all these things saying my belongings, my kingdom, my wealth, my relations, my family, all those are only of this body. So, if there is a fire, then what will happen? Something which is attached to this body, only that will go away. But my Atma can never be destroyed. So, why should I worry? What is there for me to worry? And that is the reason why I continue to sit and listen to you without getting affected by that commotion. And now the other disciples understood what is the greatness of this Janaka Maharaja. So now that we have heard this story, what is the message for us? We are obviously not Janaka. I already mentioned at the beginning. We are not Janaka. But can we at least hold him as a role model? Can we have his actions in this story as a guiding post or as something that we must aspire to? Whenever some situation comes in our life, can we try and think that what is going to be the impact of this on my Atma? What is the value of this for my Atma's journey? And when we learn to think like that, somewhere slowly over a period of time, we will learn to look at all that is happening in the world around us without getting affected by it, without getting too much disturbed over it, without letting it affect our mental equilibrium. There are so many people that when some small thing goes wrong, they panic to such an extent that they don't know what they are doing. So, that kind of an attitude will not take us anywhere. It only shows that we are maximum attached to this body, to this world, and all the objects in this world. So we will definitely not become like Janaka Maharshi on day one, right? We can't become a Rajarshi like him. But even if we don't become Rajarishi, can we at least try to imitate that thing, that attitude for the smaller things at least? To start with, if there is some information that comes my way, let me not panic over that. If there is someone who talks rudely to me, let me not get angry over that. If there is somebody who behaves against my wishes, if I have to do something which I don't like to do, can I learn to look at it as this is something which is only for the body? This does not affect my Atma. So why should I get worked up over it? With that spirit, we must try and think of all the events that happen in our life. Now, the acharyas say that we are telling, right? That the Atma cannot be burnt, the Atma cannot be wetted by fire. All these things we talked about. Sorry, it cannot be wetted by water, it cannot be blown away by the wind. We talked of all these in the last time's shloka. So then the Acharya say, now we see many times when all these great bhaktas of the Lord, right? Like in Tamil Nadu, there were the Alvars. Then in Maharashtra, we had all these Sant, all the saints who were there. In Karnataka also, we had Purandara Vitala, Purandara Dasa we had. And we had Kanakadasa. So many more examples are there of so many bhaktas who are great devotees of the God. And many times if you see these bhajans and other compositions of the Lord, they are crying out to the Lord and they say, that I am burning in separation. My Atma is burning and it is desiring to see you, like that. So when they say burning in separation, Now, does it mean that that Atma is burning? It doesn't really mean that, because we already said that Atma cannot be burnt, it cannot, nothing can happen to the Atma. Then what is this sentiment that they are talking about? It is something which comes when they are at the very peak of bhakti, when they are so deep in their devotion to the Lord that they can't bear to be away from the Lord's sight. They can't be away from the sanidhya of the Lord. So in that, just like a worldly person who is attached to some human being feels that he is burning in separation from that person, like that, these great bhaktas of the Lord will feel that they are burning in separation from the Lord. So, although they may sing in their bhajans and in their stotras and shlokas, and they may, whatever compositions they have, they may say that I'm burning like this. But what it tries to convey is actually that they are so sad at being separated from the Lord. So, there is this awareness that what is this entity that I'm calling as me, I, this is nothing but the Atma. And this Atma is away from the Sanidhya of the Lord. It is away from the presence of the Lord. So when it is not in the presence of the Lord, that is a cause for sorrow. And being in the presence of the Lord is the ultimate happiness, right? Now, there are some schools of thought where they do talk that, okay, at the time of moksha, the Atma merges with the Paramatma. But according to Swami Ramanujacharya, this point that we discussed today, that the Atma is unchanging, right? We said avikaram, it is unchangeable. So if that is true, then the Atma can never change its Swarupa. Now we know that if you compare the quality of the Paramatma and the Jivatma, Jivatma is the Atma which has taken some form, and Paramatma is the Lord. So the Paramatma's form is infinite. Infinite means it is without any limits. It is having no boundary, right? That is infinite. What about the Jivatma? The Jivatma is called infinitesimal. Infinitesimal means it's very tiny. So the Jivatma is very tiny. It is Anu, right? And the Paramatma is large, infinite. He is Vibhu. So when that quality is there for the Jivatma, and we said that the Atma will never undergo any change, then to think that the Atma, the Jivatma, is going to grow and become equal to the Paramatma is not the right idea of moksha. So this is what the Acharyas explain. Of course, this last point that I have mentioned is not very relevant from our point of view, because we are not here to debate about the different schools of philosophy, right? But I just mentioned this because this is one of the factors, which is one of the ideas which is put to show that the Atma will never become one or equal to the Paramatma. But what we need to focus on today is about this story that I told about Yagnavalkya Rishi and Janaka Maharaja. So let us try and see how much of that spirit of Janaka we can try to adopt in our own lives. Right? I hope and pray that Krishna will bless us to be able to do that. So we have come to the end of our topic for today. Let us now offer Kritagnyata. Let us offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and to join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Zarnaji. Thank you, everyone else. It is really good that we could continue with our satsang all these days. Now, yesterday there was something I had to go out somewhere, so I was not able to have it yesterday. But anyway, it's good that we are given an opportunity to continue with our satsang in whatever way it is possible. The last time there was the technical glitch, so I was not able to record also that satsang, right? Let me see. I will try and record it again and put it up on the group sometime this week, so that those who could not attend will be able to do it. Today's I have anyway recorded. If there is anybody who has any doubts about whatever we discussed today or in the previous satsangs, please send me the questions, the doubts you have on WhatsApp, so that we can try to clarify those doubts. So we will stop here for today and meet again next Thursday. Thank you, everybody. Namaskar.